me. This is actually, in a sense, a continuation of a paper I gave at a Papers We Love meetup years ago, but the video is on the YouTube channel. Oh, back. How do we go back? Okay. So, yeah, my background is compiler writing, code generators, blah, blah, blah. I got into source code analysis, and then for the last 15 years, I've been doing industrial research in software engineering. So, and you can find me on Twitter, Evidence SE. There's a Discord channel on evidence-based software engineering, and I have an email address as well. And my book is finally out. Well, actually, it's been out for 4 years now. Here it is. Da-da-da-da. You can download the PDF for free at that address. If you search for evidence-based software engineering on Google and see that picture, you can go there and the PDF's there, you download the PDF. You can download all the code and data. It's all publicly available. And as are all the slides and the data. You can see me on GitHub, where you'll find the code data for the book. More links, and I write a blog called The Shape of Code. Right, so what's this talk about? So this talk is essentially about effort estimation for software tasks. And I'm going to be talking about, before this paper was published, what happened. I'm going to talk about the paper itself, a bit about the paper, and then say, well, what's happened since this paper? The paper came out in 2021. So what's happened since it came out? Oh, if you have any questions, please interrupt me, otherwise I'll just rattle through. We can all get to the pub quicker, which some of you might prefer. So before the paper was published, there's two sorts of software estimates. One is where companies are pitching for work. You've been asked to tender, so you're competing against others. And the typical scenario is that you want to bid low, because if I'm competing against Renzo over there, I think if I pitch it low, they might come to me rather than him. And he's probably thinking the same. So the question is, how low can we go? Whereas, and then of course, people always want changes, and you can recoup the costs by charging them extra for the changes they want. So that's one kind of estimation. And in fact, that's where most of the software data is. And the other kind of software estimation is internal work, where your boss comes up to you and says, well, how long do you think it's going to take? And you sort of say, whatever. And in that environment, it's not competitive, because you're employed by the company. If you say it's going to take 10 years, what's your boss going to do? You say, well, 5 years or whatever? And there'll be other work available. You might want to impress management by saying, yeah, it's only going to take 2 months, and although you don't, it takes longer. So before this paper, in fact, the earlier paper came out, the state of the software landscape, estimation landscape, is the data sets were minuscule. They're I've actually published there on GitHub. I've collected together all the publicly available estimation data sets. And you'll see how small they are. I'll talk about them in a minute. People have published a few models. The models were created. These were sort of mathematical models of how projects work and how you might estimate it. And they were done in the sort of the 70s and early 80s. All the good software engineering research was done in the 60s, 70s and 80s, early 80s. And then it died a death. Academics got in on the thing. And it's all about machine learning as well. People are very much into machine learning. Of course, the advantage of machine learning is if you're an academic, you don't have to know anything about software, how software estimates actually happen. You just chuck all the data into a machine learner and off you go. I wrote a blog post, my most famous blog post, Software Effort Estimation is Mostly Fake Research. And I give, if you search for that title, there's a blog, you'll see the blog post. Upset lots of academics, but a lot of people say it's true. So what most software estimation research is machine learning on small data sets. And by small, I mean data that has 24, 68, 18, under 100 rows. People are machine learning on under 100 rows. It is literally fake research. Or the China data set has 499, which is almost over 100 rows. And I've got nothing against early data, but most of this data came from NASA projects and US Department of Defense projects, very large projects, bespoke projects for the military. So I guess you might say they're not typical of your commercial applications, and they're also very small. There is the DAX dataset, which you used to be able to pay $50, and the US DoD would send you a tape. And it's been lost in the sense of I don't know anybody who's got a copy of it. And it looks like this tape, wherever it might be, contained lots of data. I've spoken to all the people at Carnegie Mellon who are involved. If ever I see anybody who's written a paper that references this data set, I email them saying, have you still got a copy of the data? Nobody, it's vanished. I'm sure it's somewhere. And I wrote a blog post. Yeah, anyway, okay. So, 2019, there was suddenly an explosion of data. I happened to be sitting next to a guy at a workshop, and I told him what I was writing this book, and I was collecting data, and he said, oh, I've got some data you can have. Oh, thank you. The company was Software in Partnership, SIP, and they'd sold their company, and this company, literally every task they did, they estimated and they had the actuals, and who did it and stuff like that. And I could have it, 10 years worth. It's like, oh! So this is order of magnitude more than existed anywhere in the literature. 10,000 unique tasks, 8,000 completed tasks. The reason the number is smaller is most of the tasks were done by one person. Some of the tasks were done by two people. And the two people, so about 2,000 tasks were done by more than one person, which is why it's less. And over that 10 years, they employed about 22 developers.
And no abandoned?
Sorry?
Is there no abandoned tasks?
These are small tasks. They used Agile, where they broke everything down into small tasks, a few hours. And they estimated Agile time, and they had backlog and all the usual Agile stuff.
I think the question was meant to be if all of those 10,000 were successfully completed, or if they were left incomplete, abandoned.
Will the tech pick up your question? So the question is, were the tasks successfully completed or abandoned? And some were abandoned, and that information is present in the data set. It says I think it says incomplete or something, but most of them were completed, yes. They ran the company for 10 years, they wrote everything down, or they documented everything, and the company was successful and they sold the company.
Does the data include sort of any form of tagging as to why tasks weren't completed, or is it just
No. So the data consists of estimate actual, when they did it, an anonymous identifier name. So D20, D15 or whatever, developer 15. Then there'll be a project number like P11 or whatever, and that's about it really. But this is like gold dust. So beforehand there was nothing, and now we have 10,000 from one company. So this came out in 2019. Oh, and when I gave the talk, Renzo, where is he? There he is. Well, I gave the talk at Papers We Love about the SIP dataset, and I was chatting to Renzo, and Renzo said, I've got some data as well. Pomodoro data. It was like, what? And Renzo has been collecting and documenting his tasks in Pomodoros. He said, yes, you can have that. Oh. So data explosion in 2019. Yay. So, so I was kind of thinking, oh, there's going to be loads of data out there in the world. I've just been missing it. And 2 years later, I found this data set, which is the subject of the paper I'm going to talk about today. So what Humphrey, you might have heard, he's the personal software process guy. He worked, senior guy at the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon. He used to work, he was a vice president at IBM for many years. Went to work for them in 1959. did lots of stuff there, rose to be a vice president, left to join academia, Software Institute. And because of his connections with industry, he was able set up the team software process. He was able to go around and talk to companies and said, yeah, what we need is for you to do, if you're using this process, it would be nice if you could give us your data. We will anonymize it and so on. And I happened to be reading someone's paper, Bill's paper, completely separate topic. And I looked at that data and it's got software estimation in it. It's got software data in it. And when I looked at it, it was even bigger than the SIP data. It's almost order of magnitude even larger than the SIP data. And it's got, I'm going to be talking about a new, I'll quickly go over the previous results, what we found out in the SIP data, and then talk about what happened in the CESAW data. So they've got a lot more, these were safety critical projects, military projects, so there's a lot more information in there. The military are very keen on something called a work breakdown structure, where you break the work down into various levels. So that data's in there. They've got project staffing data in there. And they've also got fine-grained data in there. The SIP data, it was an estimate and actual. This has actually got data that says we started this, we stopped then, there was a pause, and then we restarted again. So it's got stop-end data. So the actual tasks are broken down. In some cases, it's a complete task where it's broken down into separate chunks of work. It's fantastic, and there's almost 200,000 of those. So this is literally 3 orders of magnitude more than has previously existed. Now, so this is a general thing about software estimation in these 2 data sets and other data sets I found. The question is, well, what happens? What do these data sets tell us? And I argue that this data is not software specific. The behaviors are not software specific. These data are human characteristics. For instance, people like to use round numbers, 5, 10. There have been experiments where researchers have gone up to people and said, excuse me, can you tell me the time, sir? And someone's looked at their watch and they round the time down. They don't sort of say, oh, it's sort of 7:13 and 30 seconds. They say it's about 7:15. People like communicating in round numbers. You'll also see the term heaping. There are areas, for instance, in ecology, they don't call them round numbers, they call them heaping. It's called heaping. There are individuals who consistently over and underestimate. The literature always says that people underestimate. That's not true. In a commercial environment, you underestimate because you're competing. If you ask people whether they're not under pressure, they over and under, and you can see the patterns in the data. I talked something about accuracy of the estimates, and for a couple of years I saw the queue of items, backlog queues and so on. There were lots of power laws. I thought, oh, I've discovered something fantastic here. And then a few years ago, I read a paper that showed that actually, if you have a priority queue, the waiting time is a power law. And I was so disappointed. I thought there was something magical going on. And actually, the situation is if you put items in a priority queue, the waiting time will be a power law. And that's what the data shows. So backlogs are basically priority queues. So nothing, well, it's kind of magical, but I thought it would be really magical. Yes, so priority queues are power laws. Okay. Let me say something about round numbers. If you ask people to estimate, they will this data. So these are estimates. There's an estimate across the bottom. Sorry. People have been asked to make an estimate for a task, and you'll see that the most estimates were 1 hour. This is the number of tasks. 2 hours, 4 hours, 30 minutes, 3 hours. 1 day was a common value. Not 6 hours, but 1 day. Presumably there are 7 hours in a day. 2 days, you've got 2 hours, 2.5 hours there, and so on. So you'll see that people are estimating in round numbers. round numbers communicate a level of accuracy. If you ask me for an estimate and I say it's going to take 1 hour 15 minutes, I'm communicating to you that I'm quite confident about it's going to be 1 hour 15 minutes. The level of fuzziness in a 1 hour 15 minute estimate is quite narrow. But if you come to me and say, well, how long is it going to take? And I say it's going to take about an hour. You go, oh, okay, it's about an hour, is it? And an hour estimate has a wider fuzziness bandwidth than a 1 hour 15 minute bandwidth. When you look at the data, some of the estimates, it's a very simple way of improving the accuracy of the estimates would be to change the estimate from 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes. And that would dramatically improve the level of accuracy. But when I talk to managers, they say, well, we don't want to do that because it communicates more accuracy than we actually think we have. And so they prefer to stick with a 1 hour estimate, even though it's less accurate than a 1 hour 15 minute estimate. And there are cultural work intervals like 1 day. So you see here, people are actually estimating 7 hours. Yeah, Harry? Yeah.
Why do you estimate in hours? Why don't you do it relative to the other tasks?
What do you mean by relative to other tasks?
So, I mean, I think it's quite standard to estimate a task given its relative complexity to another task, opposed to estimating it in terms of time.
People, so the question was about how to estimate tasks. There are lots of ways. Well, there are a few common ways of estimating tasks. People use story points. People use function points. T-shirt sizes. This data set contains time. They measured everything in hours. If you talk to people who do it in story points, they say, well, actually, a story point's about an hour, which is a bit... in a sense, a story point is a get out of jail card. You can talk about story points rather than hours. It doesn't feel like you're tying people down to time. Even though you treat a story point like an hour, it doesn't feel like, you say one story point, which is not really an hour, but everyone thinks it's an hour. I have data on story points and function points, and the patterns are the same as these patterns, round numbers and all the other stuff. So people don't estimate, like 6 hours is a much less common estimate than 7 hours. And you see there's virtually no 8 hours. 8 hours will be down here somewhere. So if you came up to me and I said it was going to take 6 hours and it's a 7-hour workday, well, why didn't he say a whole day? It's a bit peculiar. People just don't estimate 8 hours, like a day and an hour. That's kind of... It comes back to level of accuracy again. So divisible by 2, 5, 10. And there's a whole bunch of research papers about how people do things with round numbers, and there are various algorithms to try and say, well, that person said an hour, but of course it's probably fuzzy. So how can we spread that actual estimate out to try and figure out what the real distribution is? Because these are the other ones down here, and this data is very spiky. So you say, well, what's the rough? If I was to spread these out, what would the distribution be? And there are people who propose various models for doing that.
So just one more question. So people is that 1 minute and 2 minutes on the left?
Yes, it is 1 minute and 2 minutes. When I looked at the CESAW data, I said, 1 minute, why are they estimating? And it was a military project, and they can be very bureaucratic. So these were compile times. And they were estimating how long it would take to compile something. It's like, why? Well, we have to estimate everything. So they estimated it. Oh, okay. And how long does it take to fix a syntax error? Some of them are quite ridiculous. It's like, why were they doing this? And these are safety critical military type people. We have to estimate everything. That's a task. We estimated it. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It's like, oh, what? Yeah. I know. It kind of dropped my confidence in this data. I said, are they really doing this? I was talking to Bill Nichols, the guy at CMU, who did I? No, he's sorry. My co-author is someone called Bill Nichols, whose name appears later on. Oh well, okay, let's carry on going. So this was kind of interesting. a lot of people, the Fibonacci numbers, estimating in Fibonacci numbers, 1, 2, 3, 5, and so on. I always thought was a bit of a, really? So if you think about it, they're kind of like round numbers. When people pick round numbers, what sort of pattern is it to the round numbers? So this red line is a fit, a regression fit. Each of these is a Fibonacci number. And you can fit a rough. And this is the CESAW data. So like this is 1 hour, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 0.2 of an hour, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on. If you take all the round numbers that people use when they estimate in hours, the most common, and order them, you get a fit a regression line. The regression line is parallel, more or less, to the one for Fibonacci numbers. And the same is true for the SIP data and bright squid, which is another set of data.
But it's parallel at the transformation, right? Because the y-axis is not...
It's an exponential. It's an exponential, yeah. So there's log axis here. But the interesting thing is it's parallel with the Fibonacci numbers. So in other words, people are picking the points at the same separation, fraction of separation as the Fibonacci numbers. When they're being told to estimate in hours, they're picking the same ratios for round numbers as the Fibonacci numbers. So this convinced me that actually Fibonacci numbers are not a joke thing. They're actually it's a real thing. When people are asked to pick ratios of time, they pick the Fibonacci ratio. And there's 3 different data sets there where this comes out. CESAW, the SIP data, and bright squid, which is a much, much smaller data set. I wish I had some data for weeks, people estimating in weeks, because I'd want to know whether this parallel line also appeared. I don't have any weeks estimates at all. Okay. Okay, so the ratio of estimate to actual. So if the ratio was 1, so the estimate and the actual were the same, it would be along this line. If the ratio is down here, then the estimate is smaller than the actual. If the estimate's up here, the estimate is larger than the actual. And you'll see that certain people are giving estimates that are bigger than the actuals. And other people are consistently giving estimates that are less than the actuals. Each one of these lines is one developer. So that's the range of this developer's estimate actual ratio. So this developer here is consistently giving bigger estimates than actual, as is this one here. These developers are consistently giving estimates that are less than the actuals. And that pattern occurs in the SIP data, in the CESAW data, and I've seen it in later data sets. CESAW is by far and away the biggest data set. And they have lots of projects, and it occurs in all the projects. The SIP data was a group of people in one company. So, what do we expect estimates to actually look like? If I was to plot, if I was to plot the planned duration against the actual duration, this data is for road tarmacking. It's 700 odd estimates actuals. Are you putting it on?
No, sir.
So that grey line shows you where the estimate equals the actual. And if it's above the line, then they've estimated less than the actual. So this shows you that on the bids for these contracts, all the contractors underestimated. And they regularly underestimated because they were pitching against other contractors to do the same work. And that red line is a regression fit, and it's consistently 24%. And these handful of, there's 1% of companies who've actually overestimated. And this is kind of what you expect estimation data to look like. Everybody underestimates, by some regular amount that they feel safe to do. So this is road construction data, and I'm now going to show you software estimation data. Would anybody like to guess what software is? I guess you've all guessed it doesn't look like this.
Is it broken up by contractors and non-contractors, or is it for software or?
Sorry, this or
No, the next slide.
the next slide is by project.
Okay.
I believe it's by project. And in fact, it's one big project. But all the pattern's the same for all of them. They all more or less follow the same pattern.
Okay.
So that line there shows you everybody's underestimating, and the software data. So that grey line there shows you where, if people were accurately estimating, they'd be along that grey line there. So these people are overestimating, and these people are underestimating. That red line is the regression fit. The purple line is this one standard deviation. So 68% of tasks are within one standard deviation. That greeny orangey, greeny yellow line is the 95%. So 95% of projects are within a factor of 4. So one standard deviation is about a factor of 2. And this, did it actually say? 9,000 software tasks. It doesn't actually give you the project number. Sorry about that. And this happens again and again and again and again. This pattern, it moves around a bit. This factor of 2, this is a factor of 2. 2/3 of projects are within a factor of 2. Sometimes it goes up to like 2.5, 3. But you know, it's about a factor of 2. And this factor of 4, 95% of projects within a factor of 4. Sometimes it goes up to 5. But it kind of lurks around there. So this could be any project, any software project. People are underestimating and overestimating. It just, and that pattern just keeps cropping up, even if they're using story points and even when they're using function points. It's the same pattern. It's really quite surprising. You think, well, story points should be different, but they're not. I even have data, a small data set where they estimated in story points and the actual was in time. And it's the same pattern. It just keeps cropping up and up and up all over the place. So yes, and when I speak to venture capitalists and other managers about this, their reaction is, yeah, sounds about right. Well, I thought a factor of 2 people would be quite upset about. Their typical response is, yeah, sounds about right. Okay, so this, the slides I've given so far are consistent patterns across the SIP data, the CESAW data, and the other data. And we can now, wrong button. So the work breakdown structure is specific to CESAW data. It doesn't occur in any other of the data sets. Work breakdown, so these are levels. So you break down, this project is broken down by the major task here, and that's broken down, that's broken down, that's broken down. And these leaves are the actual tasks that get done. Now the nice thing about this is you can actually see the whole structure of the project, how things fit together. So, and that's a year over there, the year when the work was done, when the task was implemented. So that's the good news. The bad news is you can't, apart from drawing this pretty diagram, there's not enough information to tell you other things. You can't tell whether this was a rework or not, you know, whether they did the part of some tasks and then rework the tasks. All you know is this stuff happened, and you don't know these are just numbers. You don't know what the relation is between that and that. All you know is the level. There's no connection saying, well, this connects to this because it's related in this way and that way. All you have is this task, is it a WBS level 1, 2, 3 or 4. So we have this tantalizing data that actually turned out to be useful for drawing pretty diagrams and saying, oh, why couldn't we tell us what the connection is between this and this, and why couldn't we, that this was a reworking of this, but that data is just not there. We've just got tasks. They don't say, well, we rewrote this to do, over here. There's no, see, Harry? Yeah.
Is the pink caused by two things being at the same time? Because there's no legend for it.
Pink.
Or purple, or whatever the colour is.
Purple is the year. So these are the leaf nodes. The reds here are the non-leaf, and their colours are all the other colours are years. So the project started in 2010, and then these were done in yellow. Sorry, this was done in 2011 and 12 and so on.
But there is no purple on the legend, right? So what does purple stand for?
You're right. There's no purple on the legend.
Is magenta like two colours overlaid or something?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
It's probably when I drew this. My answer is that you're right, there's no purple on the legend. You can go and look at the data's on GitHub, go and look at the data. It looks like it's a bug in my slide. It could be, since it's down here, it might be 2015. But when that was drawn, I'm guessing perhaps because it's down here, 2015? I don't know. Sorry about that, I will check. So it's kind of tantalizing. The other side, that's project staffing. So these are 4 projects. That's project 614. This project is 6 something or other. Project 95, project 615. So the y-axis is a person. So this is person number 8, person number 9, person number 10, and this is the time that they were working on that project. So you can see that this project here, a bunch of people started at the beginning, they worked through, but they didn't work all the time. This person here didn't work for very long. This project here had a core group, and then they slowly increased the number of people working on it, but these people didn't work. So you can see different patterns of project staffing. This project, everybody did a bit of it for not very long, over a long period of time.
Does the shape change based on the number of people that are working on a project?
These projects are for different companies. I don't know what company it is, and they're different projects. And the only thing that's available is dates. So, and all the developers are anonymized, so there's no way of knowing that actually this developer number D1 is the same as developer on this project, is the same as developer number D3 on that project. So, I'm assuming that some of these people were working on multiple projects,
Yeah.
but you don't know. So this is another example of it's very tantalizing that here's the data and you can see the patterns of behavior, but there's no way of finding out, because it's all anonymized, whether the developer was working on other projects. Well, presumably they were, but you don't know what they are. And you don't know what's the average number of projects that a developer works on over a month. So you can see these different behaviors. So this data is only in the CESAW data. So I've not seen anything else like this. And it's very tantalizing in that you can see stuff there and you can come up with theories about why. But there's not enough. You can't say, why were they doing this? The nice thing about the SIP data, the earlier one, is I had access to the director of the company and I would ask him questions. Why did your company do this? What happened? And he would say, oh, well, yes. And for instance, when I showed him whether people were overestimating or underestimating, he said, yes, the people who are underestimating would tend to be the salesy types. They're pushing to get the project done. And the people who, I just gave him the D numbers. I said, D number 11, over or under. And he would say, yes. I would say, this person is always overestimating. And he'd say, oh, yes, I know that person was always a very cautious person. So it's really a risk tolerance thing. So here I didn't have access to someone involved with the project. My co-author, Bill Nichols, he still works at Carnegie Mellon. they'd collected all the data, so he knew a bit about the internals, but he didn't know about the actual projects themselves. He couldn't say, oh yes, on this project, this is because of so and so and so and so. Yeah.
Derek, could it be, I was thinking about the shape, could it be that the square shape is so because of more mechanical tasks? Because it looks like that, you know, on a square shape, if people can take a task repeatedly, it's regularly executed, and instead in the other one with a curve, there's irregularity essentially. There are people who can be at the core of the project for a longer time, others are just appearing and disappearing. It looks more complicated or
So
less predictable.
the question was about the shape. Well, presumably this one is a well-defined project, or things are, they've got a good specification and loads of people can just jump straight on it and off they go. Whereas this project here, it's a slow build-up. So the specifications are being written, the customer hasn't decided really what they want, the hardware's not ready yet, they can't put too many people on it, they've got a few people on it, it's kind of ticking over, and then it suddenly ramps up. And then they need a few more people here. And here they have a core group. And these people are on for a bit, and then do they leave? Presumably they don't all leave the company. Presumably they've all moved to another project. And then things happen, and then all of a sudden after a while, you know, they get more people coming in. And then this project is sort of some background project that people do. Oh, we haven't got any work to do, go and work on project 95. You know, you're free today, go, yeah. And this sort of ticking over in the background type of project.
Do we know how long they worked on the project for the day, or was it just, they just did a...
Yes, yes.
They did 1 hour here and it gets included, or is it 6 hours? Is there a way of...
Yes, you can go and look at the data, and it will say this person, you know, developer 15, developer 12. These are the days they worked on it, and this is how many hours they put in. You know, the tasks were. Yeah.
Presumably the spike at the top right is a death march, on the bottom left graph, but the end of it at the top.
Yeah.
It's a death march of let's pile as many
Yes,
people
yes,
onto
yes.
as we can over here.
Panic, yes, yes. We're reaching the deadline, we've got to finish.
Yeah.
This one I kind of wondered, well, did they just stop recording the data, or did the project actually finish? Did it sort of fade away? What? Yeah, this one's definitely a death march, yeah. Well, a sudden death march, yes.
Maybe 95 is a maintenance of some project.
Yeah, it could be maintenance.
So they're just doing regular sort of bits and pieces now and again.
Well, it ran for a year. So, yeah, it could be maintenance. But why so many people if you're maintaining? This one went on, this was a big project, this went on for a long time. Okay, so this came out in 2021. So what happened after this data and this huge data set happened? Well, in academia, nothing changed. They're still churning out, they're still doing machine learning on minuscule data sets. That's just, you know, you're in academia, you're incentivized to write papers, everybody else does machine learning on these data sets. Some of these data sets now have more papers published about them than they have rows in the actual data themselves. The nice thing about the CESAW data was it replicated the SIP data. I found all these patterns in the SIP data. Well, is it specific to this company? Is it specific to they were in the financial services sector. You can make lots of arguments it's just specific to that company. And then with the SIP data where it's individual projects, not a company, just individual projects on lots of them. And the patterns were exactly the same. So it replicated the results. So I go around and I talk to lots of managers and say, can I have your data and stuff? And when I tell managers about this, and the typical response is they say it sounds about right, which is really annoying because what I'd like them to say is, wow, that's really interesting, I didn't know that. Because I'd like to feel I've discovered something. When they sort of say, well, it sounds about right, it's like, oh, well, really? You know, that's not the result you expect when you're doing research. And there's a couple of feedbacks from this. for instance, the underestimate situation, I say to managers, well, you could send people on a course. You could get the underestimators to come up a bit, and you could get the overestimators to come down a bit. And managers don't seem to want to do that. And it looks like they don't want to upset their developers. It's very easy for a competent developer to find another company, get another job. And it's expensive and time consuming to hire a new developer. And talking to managers, they don't want to upset developers by sending them on the course to improve their estimation accuracy, which took me a while to think, well, why not? Sorry, yeah?
Well, I have a question about that. So how would you design a course like that? Because there were, in the dataset with the range of software developers, there were some developers who were estimating very close to what was the actual time,
Yes.
but they also had tasks where they way underestimated.
Yes, so the question was about how you'd organise a course. Well, I guess you wouldn't, if the people were estimating reasonably well, you wouldn't send them on the course?
No,
Or perhaps you send the whole team on the course?
No, sure, but I'm saying some of the most accurate estimates were by people who also made hugely underestimated as well.
There are companies who run estimation courses, and they give you tips like checking, sort of doing a run through of what's involved, trying to visualize things, or thinking about past experiences is a common technique. If someone comes up to you and says, estimate this task, well, I mean, what technique do you use? A lot of developers have never had any training on estimation. It's the sort of thing like where, oh, you've been doing this for a few years, you should know what you're doing, we'll get you to make estimates. In the case of the SIP, Software and Partnership, they would hire recent graduates in and they would train them up. And the other thing I found surprising that is a lot of the time this data was collected and developers never got to see it. So they were collecting estimates and actuals and they were never showing it to the developers, saying, hey, look, this is how accurate your estimates are. And I think feedback would be very useful. Feedback is an essential part of improving a skill. Yes. So it's a bit despondent, really, that I haven't found anything that managers want, like how I can improve the estimation process. I was hoping that we're in a bit of a recession from the point of view of hiring of developers. That if it was difficult enough for developers to get another job, then managers could put more pressure on them to improve their performance. But that doesn't seem to be happening. Perhaps we need a deeper recession, or well, anyway, I don't know. So academia are just completely ignoring this data. There are a few people who've looked at it and done things with it. There's a psychologist did his master's thesis on your data, Renzo. Well, you saw, yeah. So there are odd people doing.
There's a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to know, was there any correlation of competency of those developers in the project to the estimations they had?
So competence of the developers? No, there's no information on the developers. They're just a number, like D11, D12.
Or the experience they had or something?
No, nothing. It's all anonymous. In the case of the SIP data, I could talk to the manager, the director, and he knew the people. So, but in the case of the CESAW data, no, I didn't have access to anybody who was involved. So this data came out in 2019, and the CESAW stuff came out in 2021. So we had COVID, and we've got LLMs now. So in a sense, this has kind of got even pushed further down the priority queue. I'm sure somewhere someone's training an LLM on this data, and who knows what it's going to find. So I collect data. I'm always after, it's an advert, by the way, for data. So I offer a free analysis of your data, provided I can publish an anonymized version of the data. And if you work for a large company with about more than 50 people, you will have lawyers. You'll come here, and the lawyers will say no. So anybody here whose company has lawyers, thank you very much, but you're not going to be able to give me any data. If you're a small company, or you know a small company and they have data, please put them in touch with me. Small companies are fun because you can talk to their CEO and explain what's going on, and you can get lots of feedback. The main problem with small companies is they tend not to record any data whatsoever. So, yeah, the companies who can give me data don't record it, and the companies who do record it have lawyers. So, and there's Discord channel, so join it. It's an evidence-based software engineering. Yeah, so thank you. That's it, I think, yes. Questions, queries? Some time?
Has any papers tried to find confidence intervals for developers' estimates? Like, on average, how wide is the confidence interval based around the estimate?
So you can do this. So this is by each of these is a developer. And so yeah, you can go in and do that with the data, provided the data. Some developers have made lots of estimates.
Yeah. And have people done that?
No, the academics have just ignored the data.
Okay.
I think the other one shows the kind of confidence interval, or the one with the 2 standard deviations.
This one.
Yeah, 95%.
But this is everybody.
Yeah.
This is all the data.
Which means that if you take what they estimated, you multiply by 4, you get a 95% of chance to be correct.
But some developers are like in this here, and some developers are down here.
Yeah.
And some developers are actually really close to that line.
But on average, if you take what the developers say, multiply by 4, you'll be 95% of the time right.
Or multiply and divide, because they could be over or under.
The factor is 4 times, so...
Yeah, 4 over or under, which is pretty wide, really.
Yeah.
So if I say it's going to take 10 hours, it could be 40 hours or 2.5 hours, which is pretty...
Yeah, in 2001 I was working for a telecommunication company, and they had like a big project, there was more than 100 people involved. And the project manager was a person that had been in the industry for a long time. And when he asked to do the session for the estimation, at the end, I see that he didn't write anything. He said, that's all rubbish. The result would be whatever they do times 7. That's what his formula was. And the reason was because he had to be sure that by the time the project was finished, everything was actually working, because the license of the company was depending on it. So this it kind of shows that, no, if you take the average line and multiply by 7, you'll be probably on the top of all the estimates.
Yes, yeah. Well, it pays to overestimate because rather than underestimate. Well, again, it depends on the situation. If you're pitching for a road contractor, you've got to come in under other people, so you've got to be underneath, and then charge them for extras, which is
In that case, it was different. You had to be ready by that given date, because the license of the company would depend.
Yes. There are situations in software where, it's the life of the company. The company won't survive unless the software is ready. So it's worth spending that money. In a sense, software will make you so much money or save you so much money that it's worth spending whatever it's going to cost. So the fact that it costs you more, it's worth the money.
Yeah.
Whereas with road construction, well, the road's a bit more bumpy. A not so well surfaced road is not as important as you need the software. Software developers are in a seller's market. They need us. We can charge what we like. Well, roughly what we like. So in a sense, a lot of companies don't estimate at all because they don't want to upset their developers. There is a no estimates movement. And I always say to them, well, the reason that you're pushing no estimates is you want developers to like you. So if you're a consultant selling your services, you promote no estimates so the developers will like you and talk to their managers and get you to hire you to give talks. Whereas people like me say, no, you must estimate, and they don't like me at all. I get blocked by all the trainers when I say, no, you're just talking nonsense, I have the data.
Do you have anything that talks about the size of the project like number of people that are assigned to the project influencing the, like, do larger projects do projects with more people run over more?
Well, the SIP data, the CESAW is 45 distinct systems, which is not really enough to do statistical analysis. You need a lot more. It's nice. The patterns in there are replicate really closely, which is nice. But then you want to ask more complicated questions like that. You need more data,
Right.
and that doesn't exist. Well, it does exist, but nobody will give it to me. So I was very optimistic. So all these data sets happened in 2019 and 2021. I thought, I'm on a roll here. There's going to be a flood of data, and nothing. Well, not nothing, but dribs and drabs. So perhaps in a few years' time, or perhaps somebody in this room will come up to me afterwards and say, "Yes, I have all this project data, and you can have it." It's a matter of waiting for more data to appear. Yeah, so tell your friends. Well, not even people who are not your friends. So ignore the academic research, is a waste of time, and all the other stuff is essentially sounds about right. I think we're done, Renzo.
If no other questions? Yes?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Oh.